Hey guys, welcome to the Child Care Directors Chair podcast. I'm your host, Erica Saccoccio. If you didn't know, if this is your first time tuning in, oh, you are in for a special treat. Today's episode is one that I wish somebody had made for me. So 2 years ago, I was beyond burnt, didn't know if I was having a heart attack, a panic attack, an asthma attack, but I thought I was going to literally drop dead on the playground at my school. And then I just had this epiphany. And I want to share some of these things that I know will really hit home for you. Because if you're still doing everything yourself at your center, you're ordering supplies or you're giving all the tours, you're covering in classrooms, you're answering every single question, and you're staying up late to clean, that is not leadership, honey. That is burnout. Today's episode, we are going to talk about how to stop over functioning and start leading like the builder that you are. It's time to go from doing it all to building a team that you can have do it with you. And sometimes even better than you. If you're ready to reclaim your time, grow leaders on purpose, and finally breathe again, this episode is for you. And again, I'm going to tell you, this one's from my heart because I was living it. I was living it. And some days I still feel like, we're not going to go backwards. So, how do you even know if you're over functioning? Burnout doesn't always start with exhaustion. Sometimes it starts with control. So, here are some signs that you might be over functioning. You feel resentful even though you love your job. And that's me. I love this field. I love the field and the people in it. And a lot of times you're going to say yes with a smile, but you might feel bitterness underneath. And that hidden resentment is often the first red flag that you're doing way more than you should. Or you get anxious when you delegate or feel like no one can do it like you. Or you rewrite other people's emails or redo the classroom displays or hover over staff after giving them a task. Or you're the go to person for everything because guess what? You trained them that way. And guess what? I did too. I really did too. And I didn't know that I had done that. But when you take a look back and you have people, especially folks that have been with you a long time, or they're in a management or leadership position and they're calling you 20 times a day, you've got a problem and it's your fault. And I'm going to tell you who's listening, and I'm going to tell me, Erica, it's our fault. If your team always comes to you first instead of trying to solve the problem on their own, you may have just unintentionally positioned yourself as the only problem solver. Now, there's an emotional cost to this too. That guilt about saying no or stepping back. And that's something that I had a problem with because I do love my team and I do want to help people. But sometimes, like, you feel bad for needing a break or canceling a meeting or actually leaving on time. I love that because sometimes I would say, hey guys, I'm going to leave early today. And then I would laugh and I would get home and go, oh my God, early for me was I only worked a 10-hour day instead of an 8-hour day. You know, I think that because you believe that being a good leader means that you're available 24/7, and it's not. And I had to learn that the hard way. And again, sometimes I have to reel myself back because I have identified myself as being the fixer or superwoman. And you equate value with usefulness, and you see delegation sometimes as weakness or laziness rather than empowerment. Now, I don't know if that was always the case for me, but I know it is for other folks. And I really do love to empower my team. But I think my biggest setback was if they weren't sure how to do something, or they would ask me 1,000 questions before they even tried to do the task. So I did that to myself. And it's something that you just really have to stop. Overfunctioning leaders create underfunctioning teams. The more you do, the less they have to do. And eventually you burn out and they never grow. You're building a culture of dependency, not capability. Your staff will come to you and rely on you for answers instead of developing their own leadership thinking. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between developing and managing in the context that I'm talking about here. Managing keeps the lights on. Developing turns on the lights of others. When you're managing, we're focused on compliance, scheduling, day-to-day tasks. Like thinking like, are we ratio compliant? Are the breaks covered? Are the lesson plans done? Or maybe asking like, is the job getting done? It's about execution and logistics, not really about the growth and leadership. Here's how you develop. And I learned a lot of this too as I recently in the last year completed my John Maxwell leadership training. And I learned a lot about what it really meant to be a leader and what it really meant to develop people. And there was a lot of things I was doing wrong. There was a lot of things I was doing right too, but there were a lot of things I was doing wrong. Some of the things I learned as I progress as a leader is I focus on potential. I focus on skill growth and mindset shifts. You help your staff understand why they're doing something, not just how, but why. Like yesterday, we were moving some furniture, getting ready for the floors to be stripped and waxed. And I had walked in a room, and there was 4 or 5 staff in there, and all of them in that particular room were dressed in their uniform. And I remember thinking earlier in the day, I had seen somebody who wasn't in their uniform. And I mean, we have said this a billion times. They try to wear variations of the uniform. And I had walked in the room and I said to the team, I said, hey guys, I really appreciate everybody in here wearing their uniform. And sorry about that. I really appreciate everybody wearing their uniform. And, I really am passionate about you guys being seen as the professionals that you are. And so when you're dressed the part, people will respect you more. And I appreciate you following that policy, but also just explaining to them why it was so important to me. Because sometimes people, think, oh, it's not fashionable or it's not cool to wear the uniform or whatever it is that they think. I think it's really important that they wear it, and I wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you for following the policy, but also why it was important. So that's just the thing. I'm sorry, I could get on the uniform thing all day long, but ask, how can I equip this person to own this area? So here's some examples. So instead of assigning bulletin board themes, coach a teacher on how to create a rotation system that others can follow. Managers give instructions and developers ask questions and coaches. And that's, again, something I had to learn. As a manager, you got to say, do this. A developer asks, how would you approach this? The boards need to be changed. How would you approach this? What do you think that we should showcase? How often do you think we should change the boards out? What do you think is important to the parents? What do you think is important to the kids? Management solves the problem. Development teaches others how to solve the problem. And if you've been managing people for so long and all of a sudden you start to change to a development style, people are going to say, oh, you've changed, or, oh, she's pulling back. And there's definitely going to be some growing pains. And I'm feeling some of those now, but there's some growing pains. And, but you have to go through it. You have to go through it. Development builds problem solving capacity, not dependency. So if you want your life back, you want some time to enjoy, you want to just feel normal, right? Not like a robot. A few weeks ago, I'm like, oh my God, am I even human? Sometimes I felt like I was on autopilot. And you have to stop because we're killing ourselves out here. We're burning ourselves out. I mean, almost everywhere you look, educators are burning out. And some of this is because of the way that we have always programmed ourselves to work and programmed ourselves to be seen as, what a leader does and being present and always being there and answering everybody's question and, being their cheerleader and all those things, which of course they're important, but you got to make sure that not at the detriment of your own life and your own health. So let's talk about why you need a leadership pipeline. If you don't grow leaders, you're stuck in survival mode. I don't want to just be surviving. What is a leadership pipeline, you might be asking? Well, let me tell you. It's a system to identify, train, and promote internal talent. Not every teacher is going to be a future director, but many of them can become lead teachers, mentors, or even curriculum coordinators. And, some of them, to be quite honest, don't want to be a director because they see how hard it is and all the work that you do and all the things that you give up. So, we're not really helping our cause and growing more directors if we're always like the martyr and always like, no, I got to stay. I can't leave. I can't go to my kid's track game. Like, no, we have to stop doing that. It's so critical in childcare because high turnover equals consistent pressure. A pipeline reduces that chaos when someone leaves because they're already invested in the next tier of leaders. Strong pipelines allow you to promote from within instead of always hiring in a crisis. And that, let me tell you, is a whole nother thing. I just started hiring some high school students, which honestly, we really hadn't. And I have to tell you, they're a breath of fresh air. Um, so that's a whole nother episode. That I'll do something this week on that because I really want to talk about that too. But homegrown leaders understand your culture. They understand your values and your systems. And long-term benefits is definitely greater stability. Your team feels secure knowing there's room for growth and a future at your center. Strong culture and values align. Leaders shape and carry your mission forward with authenticity. And it reduces your personal workload over time. Again, it takes time. And that's something I have to sometimes remind myself because I'm like, I'm not going to go backwards. I refuse to go backwards. As leaders, we got to take ownership and shift from being in the weeds to overseeing strategy and vision. Again, I'm not saying don't support your team, and I'm not saying don't, hop in here or there, but that should not be your daily vibe. That really should not be your daily thing. Set, a couple days a week and say, these are my strategy days, these are my vision days. I do that with the podcast, which is why I'm able to get on the podcast every day and get out an episode every day. I mean, that's super consistent. And I'm able to do that because it's important to me as a leader to share my voice and my vision with not only the people on my team, but all of you amazing directors out there, or those of you who are leaders and want to continue to grow and lead in your own professional journey. And I applaud that. And so I want to be here for you, but I also want to be here for me because I think that coming together is so, so important. So here are some quick startup tips for growing talent on purpose. You don't need a corporate training program to grow leaders. You just need intention. Start with who you already have. Look for incentive, not perfection. Someone who notices a need and takes action without being asked is already showing you early leadership traits. Ask yourself, who's ready for more? Who's coachable? Look for those who seek feedback, who ask questions, and stay curious about how things work. And also be aware, too, I want to say this, too. Also be aware of the folks who try to squash that leadership because there will be folks who get very jealous or protective over particular jobs in your program or who you're training for what. Make sure that that is not your culture. If a new person asks a question and seems excited, they're not a brown noser. They're a future leader. Pay attention. And there are going to be people on your team who are going to try to squash that quick. Because when people step up, it makes the other people who don't step up not look so great. So just be aware of that, because I've seen that in action over and over again. Embed development in everyday routines. Again, it doesn't need to be a big corporate thing. It could just be an assignment stretch, like some responsibilities, maybe lead circle time, maybe run a team meeting, which I would love for some of my team members to say, hey, I love to run the team meeting. I would love that. I can't wait. Sometimes I say, I don't want to be the only one who talks. I talk all day. I want someone else to talk. I would love someone else's ideas. I would love to see someone else put together a meeting. So giving those opportunities, and those are things that again, learned over time. So mostly now, particularly at two of the locations that I own, the directors run the meeting. I do come to some, and some I don't. It really depends on the agenda. I'll say, what is the agenda? I'll look it over, see if there's anything I want to add to it, or if it's something that I feel like, oh, I probably should be here for this, then I would go. But if it's not, then I don't go. And I give them that autonomy to run the meeting. These low risk leadership roles give people a chance to grow with confidence and without pressure. You can use regular one on ones to mentor, not just to check in, but to mentor. Go beyond the how's your classroom going, and ask, what would leadership look like for you here at our program? Teach what you know to make leadership visible. Talk through your decisions, like narrate your leadership process in real time. Maybe I'm choosing to postpone this event because staff morale is low and we need to refocus. And I'll be honest, I have done that before. Pretty recently, to be quite frank. I've done that with a strategic planning meeting. I said, you know what? I don't have all the people that I want on my team to be here in this very important meeting. So we're going to wait until we add a few more folks to our team. So it's okay to do that, but let people know why you're doing it. It wasn't that I just wanted to cancel a meeting or I didn't feel like doing it, because I didn't have all the pieces in place. So create small leadership moments. Let someone lead a parent night, anything, an event that you have coming up. Ownership builds confidence, guys, and confidence builds capability. Now, you, my friend, you. Here's as we wrap up. You have to let go. There is a power in letting go. When you let go of control, you give others permission to step up. But sometimes it's hard. Why is letting go so hard? We worry about mistakes. You may worry, if I don't handle it, will it fall apart? But just like with the kids, mistakes are part of the learning process. It's not proof that you failed. Attachment to how things should be done. But certain systems that you have built, put them in place and release your folks. That helps them feel like they are able to carry on the torch. Mindset 2, perfection is not a prerequisite for leadership. Think about it. You're not perfect. I am not perfect. Stop waiting until someone is quote unquote ready. That usually means they're never going to get an opportunity. People learn by doing, especially by failing safely. Think about when you rode a bike, right? How many times did you fall off the bike? How many times did you try to ride that bike without the training wheels? Right? You start with the training wheels, you give them a little bit of leeway, and then when we're got enough courage, let them go. Take off the training wheels. Real growth comes from making decisions and learning through reflection, not by avoiding risk. What's the reward? Well, you get to lead, not manage. You get to finally lead. When your team can function independently, you have space for vision, strategy, creativity. You model trust, empowerment, and confidence. Your willingness to let go and let your teachers fly. This teaches your team that you believe in them, and it invites them to rise to the challenge. So I hope that this episode was helpful because this is one that I wish I had made for myself a couple years ago. So, are you ready to stop being the do it all director and start becoming a leader that builds your center, the center, and what it really needs? So, here's what I want you to do next: screenshot this episode, share it to your Instagram on your story, tag me at CCDC Podcast, and tell me one thing you're letting go this week. And don't forget, leadership isn't about how much you can carry, it's about how much you can build. So go out and build it well. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Child Care Directors Chair podcast. We're out for the day.